Hello, I'm Wolf Blitzer. It's 1 p.m. here in Washington. Wherever you're watching from around the world, thanks very much for joining us.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Up first, the last step in the 2016 presidential election. Right now, Congress is convening in joint session of the Senate and the House of Representatives to officially count the Electoral College ballots and certify Donald Trump's victory. Vice President Joe Biden is presiding over the session. We expect the president-elect to get 304 electoral votes to Hillary Clinton's 227. A handful of electors defected during the December 19th electoral votes. 2 from Trump, 5 from Hillary Clinton. We will keep you updated on the latest steps in this peaceful transfer of power. Those boxes that you're seeing right now, those are the electoral votes. They're being brought into the floor of the House of Representatives by the Senate pages. Right now, they're going to go through a brief ceremonial procedure, and then it will be finally official. The Vice President, there you see him in the middle of your screen, Joe Biden. He's presiding over this special session of the House and the Senate. David Chalian, you're watching this very, very closely for us right now. It's a done deal. There's no great drama, but it's important.
Well, it is important, Wolf. You remember back on that night, November 8th, and all the vote counting we were looking at. As you know, the way our constitutional system works, it's this vote counting and recording today that actually will make Donald Trump the next president of the United States.
It certainly will. And there you see the vice president, who also is the president of the U.S. Senate, with Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House. Phil Mattingly is up on Capitol Hill for us. So, Phil, explain how all of this will play out and the possibility of a challenge by a few House Democrats.
Yeah, one does exist. Now, it's important to note, this is a rather formulaic process and one that's supposed to go through with limited to no drama. As you noted, Vice President Joe Biden will be overseeing the process as both of these chambers get together. And how it all works like this. The Vice President will open alphabetically these certified vote totals from each state. And he'll go one state at a time. He'll have 2 representatives standing next to him, representing the House and the Senate. They will read the totals. Then the Vice President will ask if there are any objections. Now, there is expected to be a possibility that objections are raised, Wolf, but there's a caveat to that. In order for an objection to actually be considered, there needs to be a representative from the House and a representative from the Senate agreeing to the objection. Now, there are a handful of House members, Democratic House members, that are considering objections related to what they say is voter suppression. A number of different states that have voter ID laws that obviously have been very controversial over the last couple of years. Here's the issue with those potential objections. As of now, and as we've been told in talking to Democratic leadership, they have not found anybody on the Senate side to co-sponsor those objections. So those objections should not go anywhere, Wolf. If you do hear objections called, don't expect them to amount to much. In terms of historically, how does this actually work? Last time we had major objections, 2001. It was a similar type of situation. Obviously, after George W. Bush's election, the Congressional Black Caucus tried to file several different objections, never found a Senate counterpart, so those were all pushed away. The last time a successful objection actually happened, 1969, that objection was eventually pushed away by the full Senate and House. So not a lot of drama here. A very formulaic process. Will move state by state. And when you talk to congressional officials who are involved in this process, they don't expect any roadblocks, Wolf.
David Gregory is with us as well. David, there will be a handful of Democrats who will try to make a political statement. They know a lot of people are watching right now. It's not going to go anywhere, but still it's an opportunity to score some political points.
It is, and there are still efforts, I think, among the resistance in the country of Democrats who are trying to lodge a real protest against the presidency of Donald Trump. But, you know, we have to remember that when this issue of the Electoral College came up initially in the 2000 election, it was really something that opponents of this system let go by the wayside. They could have taken this up. But when you had President Bush winning the electoral vote and the popular vote in 2004 and then President Obama doing the same, it seems to have lost its energy before this year.
You're seeing the senators walking in, members of the House of Representatives as well. What's interesting, let's take a look at Paul Ryan, the Speaker, having a little private chat with Joe Biden, the Vice President of the United States. As I pointed out, the Vice President is also the President of the U.S. Senate. They will be gaveling this special session into order. David Chalian, the Vice President, he was sort of blunt yesterday in that interview with PBS. with a message to Donald Trump. It sort of raised some eyebrows.
Yeah, he sort of took a Trump tactic and sort of gave back what Trump usually gives out, and just sort of looked to the camera and said that Donald Trump should grow up. That was the advice from the vice president when he was asked about tweeting about Chuck Schumer calling him a clown. That was the charge from Donald Trump yesterday, and Joe Biden sort of gave as good as the Dems were getting on that, I guess, from Trump yesterday. But, you know, Wolf, in looking at that picture of Joe Biden and Paul Ryan up there, you know, we've seen Joe Biden in that seat now for 8 State of the Union addresses, and have come to see that tableau, whether it was Nancy Pelosi or John Boehner or Paul Ryan sitting next to him. But of course, that's going to change now, and it'll be Mike Pence occupying that seat when we next expect to see a joint session of Congress.
And there you see Paul Ryan and Joe Biden. They will be in charge of this special session. Phil Mattingly, you know, it's interesting. Right now, the president-elect of the United States, normally, I'm sure he'd be glued to a TV over at Trump Tower wanting to watch this, but he's getting a very sensitive, highly classified briefing right now in the Russian cyber attacks during the U.S. election. I assume he's still in that briefing right now, not able to watch this historic moment where the members of the House and the Senate make it official. He will be the next president of the United States.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Otherwise indisposed at a pretty important and historic moment in the presidency to be. And you look at kind of how this all came to be. Wolf, you kind of note it perfectly. As they gavel in right now, this is a moment where the president-elect can actually watch.
All right, hold on a minute, Phil. I'm going to interrupt
done.
you, Phil, because the vice president is beginning the moment.
Representatives are meeting in joint session to verify the certificates and count the votes of the electors of the several states for President and Vice President of the United States. After the ascertainment has been had that the certificates are authentic and correct in form, the tellers will count and make a list of the votes cast by the electors in the several states. The tellers on the part of the two houses will take their places at the clerk's desk.
All right, there you have it. The vice president beginning the process. They're just going through a little handshaking right now, but they're going to formally count all those ballots and make it official. We'll watch the count as it unfolds and get back to the floor of the United States House of Representatives. In the meantime, President-elect Donald Trump, as I pointed out, he's being briefed, we're told right now, by the nation's top intelligence officials on the Russian hacking report. And a declassified version, by the way, of that report could be released any moment now. For weeks, Trump has expressed deep skepticism over evidence linking Russia to the U.S. election hacking. Before his briefing, Donald Trump spoke to the New York Times, a brief phone interview, and called the investigation into Russian hacking, and I'm quoting him now, a political